Hi guys, Andy N, spoken label, back in the house on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, I'm a bit tired today, but in a good mood. So we're over to one of my favourite areas in the world today, except the lady in question with us is not actually there at the moment. So, but we've got the wonderful, she's brand new to the poetry scene in Manchester and Lancashire area as well, which is definitely named to watch here. We do have the wonderful Zainab and with us today now. Zainab, obviously, people don't know you first of all. Tell us about yourself, because I know you surprised me a few minutes ago when you came in with an accent and then you suddenly went Irish on me, and I thought, oh, so obviously, tell people where you're from originally and where you are now and what starts you off your writing.
Well, so originally, I come from a Pakistani family, but I was born in Dubai. I moved there when I was 8. I've been living in Ireland for about 14 years, hence the Irish accent.
It's funny then, because
Um,
like, so you
Sometimes
started
comes
off
off as
then. You
American.
started off as
Yeah,
you talked about Ireland, your Irish accent suddenly kicked in. So,
yeah, yeah. I can't avoid it. I'm basically Irish, if you ask. Moved to the UK 2 years ago. Um, I'm new to the Manchester scene because before then I was in Folkestone in Kent. Got a bit bored. I'm a big United fan, so when I needed a change of scenery, I came up here.
boo, boo.
I'm
I'm a City fan
gonna
in
get a lot
that.
of booze just for
I'm
that.
I'm a City fan, right? So sorry, go
I should convert, to be fair.
on.
um, but yeah, I guess I kind of started writing maybe let's just say when I was 15, so good 7, 8 years ago. Um, no real solid reason, kind of just, the classic, you're in school, secondary school, no one's talking to you, getting bullied, um, people telling you you can't say this, you can't do that. So started writing off tiny little things, scribbling in the corner, the margins of books, and realized actually I'm kind of good at this. Let me get a notebook and start writing. And it just turned into a thing. And before I even left school, last year of A level, um, I entered a writing competition, had my poem come up in the Irish Times, and just kind of blew up from there. Have an Instagram, I post on there, have a little bit of a writing community, alias. Um, yeah, we're here now.
I think we'd better tell people what your writing alias was before we start, okay? Because that's where your platform still is on Instagram. So yeah, I'll let you reveal what that name is. What made you want to use that name next time?
So when I went online, I went under the name of the Intangible Author. Intangible because in reality, everyone sees you for what you are. You're just exposed to everyone and everything. But as intangible, you're untouchable, unfazed. It's your words and just solely your words. That's all anybody can judge you by. Um, it worked beautifully. It was the perfect embodiment at the time. That's the name I go by on Instagram. If you want to find me on there. Um, but surprisingly, with um, my writing now, if I go to an open mic or a spoken word, I will introduce myself as Zainab.
Then yeah,
Because
yeah, fair. No, fair play. I know because the long story short, how we got talking was, and it's not a bad thing to tell people the Zainab is. You contacted me on my author page on Facebook, and not a lot of people use, and that's why it caught me out in that one. And I found out through you, a mutual friend of ours over in the Marplay, who I'm not going to name, so I'm embarrassing, told you to speak to me, and I thought, okay, yeah. And then I tracked your stuff down on, and I really enjoyed it. So that's why you're here today. Now, it's worth noting of people, obviously, and I'm going to ask you about your open mic experiences in a moment. But we're here today really to talk about your book, aren't we? which we're going to do a deep dive in on the second half of the podcast here, because it'll be a bit different. Obviously, called Edge of Salvation. Now, we have to start with, of course, why the Edge of Salvation?
Very good question. Mind you, this book has actually been a manuscript for about a year, 10 months ish, sort of catching dust, just because I couldn't come up with a book title.
Oh, they're always the worst. Always the worst.
Yeah, it was just the book title that kept it catching dust. And I had the metaphor for the book of how I wanted the chapters to be laid out, if I wanted chapters or not. And the entire time I was thinking, oh, we've been through a pandemic, COVID. What was everybody looking for? Salvation. But you're always kind of teetering on the edge of it. You're never entirely sure whether you've actually gotten what you wanted to achieve, or are you actually at peace. So that's where the sort of the edge came in. Um, it fit beautifully with the cover too.
Yeah, it's a beautiful cover. Really is that one. Where did you do the cover, or did you get someone to do the cover for you?
I had some inspiration from looking online, but I have a really good friend of mine. She kind of does like graphic art and stuff. I asked her, and she was kind enough to put it together for me.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's a really good cover. Yeah, for it work, I think it highlights your book really, really well. Except so, I don't want to go into any of the talk about any of the poems specifically in this, because this will be in the second half, and we've forgotten to mention there's a trigger warning in the second half as well, of the mental health and numerous other things. So please be warned on the second half of this particular. Now, in the book itself, generally, then, okay, people notice at the beginning of the book there's a quote by Emily Bronte on there as well. So, what made you want to use Emily Bronte?
Um, oh, um, I think anybody who does any sort of uh, reading, or I studied a double major at uni. Half of it was English literature, and I think that was the first time I did a deep dive into Bronte, and the vignettes in her writing, the insights into her own mind. Um, it was kind of like what I wanted to do with my own writing. So dare I say, I kind of got obsessed with Bronte, her writing, her method, the way she expressed things, and I came across this quote that fit really beautifully with my situation a couple of months ago. Um, and I had to put it in because originally my book was dedicated to someone.
Ah,
That someone is no longer in the picture. So the quote at first can be interpreted as, expressing your love for that person. And now it's almost like you've buried it. Hence the all my life's work is in the grave with thee.
yeah, yeah, no, straight away of it. It's like, I think I thought it's an excellent quote. And when we'll go into the book in the second half, yeah, I think because there is elements in this book of things getting buried, and particularly if people see the first poem, drowning, that's a hint of what we're going to be looking at in the second half, definitely with it. So now I want to know next, then,
Mm-hmm.
obviously with this book itself, people notice it's quite a long book for a poetry book, this, but again, suffering from the quality in the book. How long did it take you to write this book? Because I think look of things, it took you a few years, didn't it?
Yeah, so like I said, when I started writing, I must have been 15. A lot of that stuff in the first 2 years, I would never show anybody. God,
Yeah, I've got
absolutely
that.
horrible.
I've got stuff like that as
Uh,
well. So yeah,
yeah, no, I don't even like talking about it. But since then, maybe let's say since 2019, maybe, um, deliberately picking out things I really liked and putting it together in a Microsoft Word, um, almost like an anthology, except I'm the only one writing it. Um, let's just say maybe 4.5 years worth of work, very meticulously picked out and put together, hence the 200 pages. I guess it also shows that I'm indecisive and I can't summarize things. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't do a Zine if you asked me to.
Yeah, I know what you mean with it. Now, people obviously will notice with the book as well, and you've told me about this off mic as well, and I think we should make people aware of this as well. Is obviously without giving examples, we'll just tell people to read the book. But people will notice from the beginning of the book, your poems are very short and concise, and they get slightly longer as they go along, don't they, as well? So was there a
They
point
do, yeah.
behind setting that one out in the book that way to people when they read it? When they get used to your voice, it's all felt like to me. They read the shorter poems and they get the bite-sized ones, then they slowly get longer and longer and longer, don't they?
Yeah, I don't think I can pinpoint an exact moment in time where it changed,
Mm,
but I think maybe the reasoning for it being short at the beginning was um, how I would explain it is at first, like you meet somebody new, you're hesitant to talk to them, you're not necessarily going to have a long conversation. I was hesitant to even like confront parts of myself. So when I wrote it down, it was always, oh, today I'm sad, that sort of thing. Um, but as you start to confront the buried parts of yourself, and you really have to dig in deep to figure out what's actually wrong with me, what's actually bothering me, then as you start to write it down, it just like like you have a thread on a sweater and it just keeps coming off as you pull it. That same
yeah,
way you write and it just comes out of you.
yeah. It's almost like you're unraveling, not building jumping, unraveling it by keep pulling away till there's nothing left. Yeah, you see it straight away with you.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, I got that immediately
That's
with
the
the
word.
book itself. So now, as I said, for I want to, well, we're going to spend most of the second half on this, although the second half anyway, like doing a deep dive in the book specifically. But there's a couple of things I want to wrap up with today on this part of the podcast. Okay, number one is obviously I know you've been doing open mics, haven't you, as well? I know you've just done one in Marple. You know, anyway, and you've also but you've done ones other areas as well, haven't you, as well? So tell us about then how your experience is of reading out your poems to other people for yourself.
So most of my open mic experiences in Dublin, which I thank at the end of my book as well. First time I went, I think everybody listening would agree, is terrifying the first time.
First time
Not
to tell
only
about
that
everybody, yeah.
you're reading out something so personal to you, you're there and everyone's seeing you as well. Um, it was very nerve wracking, but again, everybody would agree. Everyone is always so nice and coming up to you saying that they like this, it was great, where did it come from? You make it friends from there too. Um, and then like like you get obsessed with feeling adrenaline. You do one and then you do another one and the third one and the fourth one and you just don't stop from there.
Yeah, you
Um,
do.
so
It definitely draws you in because I've been doing it for more years than I'm going to admit. To be honest, like I said, but I remember my first one or two, and I don't drink nowadays, but I thought I couldn't go on stage without a glass of whiskey in my hand the first few times, and it was just, I think it does it. It's terrifying, isn't it? So it can really, really, really
yeah.
leave you quite shook up, definitely. But yeah, it's like a bug that I think when it bites you, it doesn't stop. I think that's what I think
Mm-hmm.
you're happened to you there straight away. It's all brilliant. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, a couple of quick questions on this part one, then, for because we have to. I always like to tell the writers to encourage them. What do you have any plans for say any future books, then, have you, or you got anything else in mind, creative wise?
Um, I actually have already started on my second one,
Yay!
and it has
Yay!
thankfully it already has a title, so it's not going to be waiting for 2 years to actually be put up online. And I would like to try to get it published rather than self-published this time around. Um, whether that works out or not, I don't know. Other than that, I do want to get put myself out there more in the open mic scene because there's definitely more of that reading, writing, poetry culture in Manchester in comparison to Dublin. Maybe because of the size difference of the city.
Yeah,
Um, but I guess long term, if writing could be something I could always do, just revolve my entire life around it, I would love to do that.
No,
Um,
good luck to you definitely with that. So, no, I wish you all the
Thank
best,
you.
definitely. So it's like I've never made a fortune off my writing, but I've always found it led me down various holes, tunnels all the time, and it's you never know what it's going to lead you to sometimes. And like it, when I
Mhm.
first started performing, what 15 years ago now, would you believe? I never envisaged 10 years later I'd be hosting a podcast. I never envisaged I'd be fronting a band, playing music with a singer in a band. You don't know where it's going to lead you sometimes, and it's I think that's part of the adventure sometimes. So definitely, so good luck with it, definitely. So I've really enjoyed this first book. I wish you all the best of it. Right, what we'll do, guys and girls, is I want to spend plenty of time on the second half of this podcast. So hang around, okay? Because we're going to do a deep dive in about 6 or 7 poems in this. And my friend here doesn't know yet what awkward questions I'm going to be asking about each of these pieces yet.
Oh,
So we will see you all in 2 minutes.